Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's streaming. The question that I have received for this week is how to accept trauma as part of what's shaped you as a person. Well, trauma is a very complicated area. And I don't want to pretend that I can unfold it for you and answer it in just a few minutes because there are so many different kinds of trauma. There are one-off horrible trauma that they're acute trauma, I suppose. And then there is an ongoing trauma. There is the combination of trauma. There is the trauma by association or secondary trauma. So there are so many different kinds of trauma, and we can't speak about all of them as if they are just one. And also, as always, I wanted to make sure that I say that there is the medical perspective dealing with trauma and psychological perspective of how to deal with trauma. And those are not my expertise. But from energetic perspective, trauma is basically that undigested emotion that is the result of an undigested experience. So your question is interesting. You're wanting to accept it as part of you, who you are, basically. And I think that goes without saying. Of course, everything that has taken place in our life is part of how it has shaped us. But maybe the better question would be, or maybe that was even your question, that how can I make sure that this trauma is basically helping me to grow? And for that, I have three suggestions as usual. Number one is to really make sure that you are ready, willing to accept it, which means really to let it go as a point of reference of an experience. And the only way we can do that is to really learn from it, which I'm going to talk about, and grow through it. But this is an important question because the answer usually when I ask it is, of course, I want to let it go. But the of course is not always of course, because sometimes the energy, and I call it the drama that trauma gives us, is a sense of feeling alive. It's better than the alternative that may be that I have no energy and I go to myself and I don't have that connection with life. So we may be unintentionally holding on to the energy that trauma brings because we haven't created an alternative for it. So just check your willingness and your readiness to actually accept it. The second one is to ask it what I was talking about. When anything that we haven't learned from keeps coming back, if you think about it, like from the physical perspective, if I'm having a headache constantly and I'm taking painkillers for it, but I'm not really addressing the deeper root and cause of my headache, it keeps coming back. So I keep taking painkillers and it keeps coming back. I need to go to the root and see why this is coming up for me in a regular, and I call it paternic way. It has a pattern. So what are my lessons? What have I learned? This doesn't mean that it was your fault. It just means anything that happened, you can learn from it. Anything even you're exposed to as a witness, you can learn from it. So this is important. And I invite you to actually start journaling. Write your lessons and let it be an open document, a live document. And as you remember, just add to it. Because once you learn from an experience, you no longer need the experience. So that's my second suggestion to you. And the third one is the context for all these two and anything else that you may be doing. And that is to bring a sense of compassion to yourself as you're reviewing this traumatic experience in your life, because it's easy for us to go to an unkind place with ourselves. It's like, come on, learn already, accept already, move on already. And some things are not that easy. We need to really spend some more time on it and some more work on it to really allow ourselves to accept it. So invite compassion, which really is kindness at the time of challenging and difficulties, and see if that is helpful. So, in summary, trauma is complex. Make sure that you have attended to the medical and psychological aspect of it. And from the energetic aspect, make sure that you are really ready to accept it. And then write down and journal on the lessons that it has taught you and allow it to be an ongoing process. And thirdly, don't forget vitamin C, compassion, because that's very important. I hope this is helpful. I'm sorry for your trauma and thank you for your question. Until the next time.